Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to this webinar series conducted by 99X. And we would like to first of all thank all of the participants for sparing your time and showing interest to join this webinar in a busy day with your busy schedules. The webinar today is about the importance of a design system for your application. So let me first begin by introducing myself. So I'm Shamir Dawood, working as a senior user experience lead at 99X. A bit about myself, background. So I've been in the industry for almost 9 years now, and working with intuitive digital products and helping to build and grow different types of products. And I've served in a variety of industries, from healthcare, HRM, RCM, recruitment, then designing DJ platforms to other streaming applications as well. And currently at 99X, I'm working, handling two projects. One is EasyTU. It's a Norwegian logistics company and a product. And another one is a SuperOffice. It's also one of the leading community / portal applications that we are currently building and maintaining at 99X. So that's a bit about myself. So let's begin and let's start the webinar. So before I begin, I would like to kind of touch base upon what I'll be kind of sharing with you all today, the agenda for this webinar. So starting off with, I'll be talking about what is a design system and what are its core elements. Then I'll be talking and explaining about something called a non-functional design system. And related to that, next up, I'll be talking about what is a atomic design methodology. And then next up, I'll be talking about the functional design system, what it is and how it's been built and who uses it. And then to the core element of this webinar, it's actually to emphasize and explain you all and tell you all about the importance and the values of having a design system for your digital product or the organization. And then we can end up the webinar series with some of the questions that you all might have at the end. So I'll be happy to kind of touch base upon the questions and clear out any doubts or questions that you all have. Okay, so with no further ado, let's begin. So what is a design system? That's what most of us are not sure about. Even though we kind of know a design and a system, okay, it could be a system, but we actually have mixed ideas about what is a design system. Honestly, it's not the kind of doubt that Patrick has over here, as you can see. But let me kind of share a few definitions that some of the big boys in the industry, also known as some of the market giants or the leaders in digital applications, building user experience, then providing user experience tools and services. So before I kind of give you all a basic explanation, what is a design system, I would like to kind of touch base upon 4 of these core guys or these companies, what they have defined as what is a design system. So first of all, we have NNG, the Nielsen Norman Group. So this is actually one of the world famous leaders in research-based user experience platforms out there. They provide research-based UX guidance, then studies, then case studies from around the world to help the community, build a better user experience for products and to grow the community. So what they basically say is a design system is a set of standards to manage design at scale by reducing redundancy, excuse me, while creating a shared language and visual consistency across different pages and channels. That's the idea. Then we have InVision. So some of you may be using InVision, or some of you already have heard about InVision. So InVision is a leading digital product designing platform out there. So what have they got to say? So they basically say a design system is a collection of reusable components guided by clear standards that can be assembled together by building a number of applications. So that's their basic explanation about the design system. Then we have UX Spin. UX Spin is also not kind of, it's actually popular within the UI UX industry. So UX Spin is a real-time collaboration tool for prototyping and for all your design needs. And they have lots of resources that can be useful for designers and for other project team members. So basically, what do they say about a design system? Their definition of a design system is the complete set of design standards, documentation, and principles along with the toolkits. So when they say toolkits, it's about UI patterns and the code components to achieve those standards. Basically, that's what their definition. And last but not least, we have Adobe. So I believe almost everyone here would have used some kind of a product from Adobe. So Adobe is, as you all know, leader in building products and services for digital experiences. What do they have to give as explanation for a design system? A design system is a collection of reusable functional elements, components, and patterns guided by clear standards that product teams use to create consistent experiences across of products. So when you kind of look at these four definitions and what they have to say about a design system, by now you all might have a small idea of what we are talking about. So let's take a look at a simple definition of a design system. So a simple definition for design system is a complete collection of standards, principles, best practices, and documentation to create and manage designs with reusable components and patterns. Okay, you all might wonder why Will Smith is here. No, Will Smith is not a part of 99X or the design team, or no, he is a user experience designer as far as I know. I just loved his reaction. That's why he's here. So you can see from his reaction. So this is what it is, a simple definition for a design system. Right. So next up, we will have a look at a few popular design systems out there. So I also believe that you all would have come across these design systems while you are building applications or while you're surfing, browsing. So these are some of the big boys or the key design systems that's out there that's very comprehensive. So first of all, we have material design system. So one of the most popular design systems out there, and this is developed and maintained by Google. And next up, we have Atlassian design system, one of the most comprehensive, complete design systems out there that I can say. And yeah, then we have Carbon design system. Carbon design system is managed by IBM, as you all know. It's an open source design system as well. So let's look into what are the core elements of a design system. So as you all can see, there are a few core elements that we can kind of put in together and say these are the stuff that fits into a design system. So first up, we've got design principles. What exactly are you wanting to make? And what should it look like? So putting all these guidelines on the purpose of the product to ensure your team really understand what you are creating. So putting all this together is meaning of a design principle. So a set of, for a design system, there could be a couple of design principles aligned together. So how we should use these components, how it should look alike, all these can be mentioned in a design system. So that's one aspect. Next up, we have the visual design language. So when you say visual design language, it's actually about the colors, the typography, the text, then imagery, how the application should render images, how the profile picture should look alike, how the image uploads should look alike, thumbnails, previews, all that stuff. Then sizing, how big should the images look alike, how big the banners should look alike, then the components, how big, small, all that stuff. And also spacing. Spacing is something that we take very lightly, but it's also a core element within the visual design language. It's about how much of space we need to keep in between buttons, form elements, maybe card elements, stuff like that. Then next up, we have components. So what do you mean by components? Components can be seen as blocks. For example, we can take, say, the search field. So in a search field, as you all know, we have a label, then we have a form field, then we have buttons. So these can be components, even individual or grouped together, coupled together. Then we have patterns and methodologies. So what do I mean by patterns and methodologies? So it's about building instructions or recommendations that you need to use for the components effectively across all your products. So it's about giving recommendations and instructions to your team or whoever is kind of referring to the design system to build their own products. For methodologies, I can say I will be touch basing upon in a future slide, and I'll be talking about it. So methodologies such as the atomic design methodology, that's one methodology. So I will be touch basing upon that in the future. So please bear with me. Then next up, we have the documentation. So documentation is also something very important when it's come to a design system. It's about putting all these together. Basically, we need to describe how the design system should work, and then we need to kind of give the idea to the team, to the stakeholders, and that is possible through a documentation, a well-written documentation guide for your design system. Documentation will have stuff like UI UX theories, then the patterns to be followed, then how the product should look and feel like, how the animations should function. So all these can be put together and combined and mentioned as a documentation. And last but not least, it's very important that we consider the people aspect, because for the human aspect of it, a design system is not possible. It's about bringing the mindset together and understanding the need to create a design system, and for the people behind it, for who is managing it. So ideally, it would be a design team of organization. It could be a design team that you hired externally. So these are the people who will basically build or construct the design team. So it's fair enough to kind of bring in the people aspect as a core element to a design system. Next up, I would like to talk about what is a non-functional design system and a functional design system. So this actually, it's not a popular terminology or such, but this is something that we would like to emphasize on. We kind of use this internally in 99X perspective as well, for a better understanding and to kind of elaborate and explain what the two parts of a design system is. So I'll first touch base upon the non-functional design system. As you all can see in this small graph, the design team is there. So you might have one single designer, or you might have a couple of designers working together. You might have designers working collaboratively, externally, within regions, countries. So they are the, I would say, inventors or the people who will actually kind of manage this design system, creating it. So you have to, you kind of have the UX designers, the UI designers, you have the interaction designers, you have the UX writers, then you might have specific QA engineers working alongside. So these people initially come together to put up a design system. So when you say a design system, there are multiple ways of creating a design system. It's actually based upon your interest and what kind of tools and language or maybe application that you would like to use. So we have Adobe XD, Sketch, Figma. So it's basically putting together the design system through one of these applications, but it's more than that. It's not only about the design aspect, it's more than that. So what can we kind of consider as a design system, and what should be the base? So as you can see in this diagram, from green, I have highlighted the brand guidelines. So it's very important before we even start on a design system to kind of understand the product that we are going to build, whether it has an existing brand guideline or does it need a brand guideline, because it really helps and it really makes an impact when creating a design system. So especially when you come to the point of designing the UI pattern library, those are the UI elements. So we need to kind of sync up with the brand guidelines if the stakeholders or the product owners need. But anyways, it's a good way of keeping an eye whether the brand guidelines should be adhered when you're creating a non-functional design system. So as you can see, for the non-functional design system, we have the wireframe sketches, then the design language, documentation, UI pattern libraries with the help of atomic design system built. Then you have the prototypes as well. So the non-functional design system, holistically, when you explain, it's about the design aspect or the element of putting this together is called as a non-functional design system. So the designers, the product owners, product managers, BAs, developers, QAs, all of them can kind of refer to this and kind of get an idea what the design system is and how it's functioning, basically how it looks like, and what are the elements, how does the screen look like, on all that stuff. Then I would like to kind of explain the functional design system. So on the previous slide, I touched base upon the non-functional design system. It's basically creating the design system where you can kind of demonstrate and you can kind of work with your internal design team to kind of grow upon the design system. But when it comes to a functional design system, what it means is using the non-functional design system. So basically, a design team would design the pattern libraries and the interactions and stuff like that. And those will be converted to a working, how would I say, a UI library with the help of maybe UI engineer, a front-end developer, or maybe both of them. They would come together and they would put that together as a working prototype that will be hosted maybe within the application or maybe externally. So as you can see in the circle I mentioned, the UI component library for the project. So to create a functional design system, there are plenty of open source and commercial component libraries out there. So two of them I have mentioned here is one is Storybook, you all would have heard about, and Zero Height is another product. Storybook is kind of free open source. Zero Height is a commercial product. So once these UI engineers, the designers, front-end developers, and the developers kind of come together and put this design system together, it's actually a functional design system where anyone who kind of wants to look at it, how, for example, how the button states work, how the hover works, how the disable state works, then how does the accordion work, then if the accordion is disabled, how it should work. All this can be mentioned and parked within this functional design system. That's why we call it a functional design system, because we can actually see how these components interact with each other and how it plays along. And even these functional design systems are out there, and basically designers, product owners, product managers to business analysts, developers, and QA engineers can refer to this as well along the product development phase. So in the previous slide, I kind of touched base upon methodology, right? So on this webinar, I would like to kind of touch base upon a methodology that we internally use, and also that we can recommend to kind of use for your design system. That is the atomic design methodology. So what is atomic design methodology? When I say atomic, you all might get an idea. It's something to do with atoms and stuff like that. Yes. So let me kind of explain the background of it and how it was built. So what is an atomic design system? This is a methodology for creating design systems, right? There is a good set of articles about atomic design systems out there, and it's been written by Brad Frost. And you can have a look at this atomic design system in detail by visiting atomicdesign.bradfrost.com and try to get a deep understanding. But for now, I'll just kind of give a brief introduction what it is. Before I kind of get into explaining the atomic design system, I would like you all to see this. So it's the periodic table of elements. So it's a bit of a science explanation going over here. Don't worry, I won't get in too deep into the science part. But as you can see, the periodic table is built around atoms. You have all these elements or the atoms out here. So why is it called atomic design system? So like I said, if we are to take a small science learning, so we have learned about the periodic table in our early school days, and also system, the methodology has a direct connection with the chemistry and the periodic table, right? So let me kind of take a small example and explain y'all why it's called atomic design system and why it's kind of linked with the periodic table. Right. To give a small introduction, small explanation about what is atomic design methodology and why it's kind of based behind the periodic table. Let's just see, for example, how the water we drink, how it's created. So in this small graph that you can see, based on the scientific explanation and the periodic table, the water is created with hydrogen, oxygen that we all know. So the hydrogen and oxygen are two atoms in the periodic table. So combining hydrogen and oxygen creates the water. So water is a molecule. So that's a small brief introduction and explanation on how water is created based upon the periodic table. Right. So you already got a small understanding about what I'm trying to explain over here. So let me kind of dig a little deeper. So in an atomic design methodology, we actually have 5 elements. So it's all based upon the periodic table. It has 5 distinct stages working together to create an interface design system in a more deliberate and hierarchical manner, right? So we have 5 stages, like I said. So first of all, we have atoms. Atoms are basic building blocks, like you also saw from the periodic table. If we kind of link the atom, or we kind of equalize it with the element in our UI pattern library, it's like a label, an icon, a button, an input field can be considered as an atom. So a single state, right? Then when it comes to molecules, molecules is simple group of UI elements functioning together as a unit. So like the water is known as a molecule. So when you take a label, a form element, input field, and a search button, we can create a search component. So that is actually we can take as a molecule. Then next we have organisms. So organisms are relatively advanced state of UI components combining kind of atoms and molecules together. For example, if you take a website or application, we have the header state, right? The header. So in the header, basically we see a logo, we see a navigation, we might see a search bar, we might see a button to login sign up. So the login sign up are individual atoms. Then we have the logo as an individual atom. Then we have the search field with a search, the search component as a search field and a search button together. That's a molecule. So combining them together, we can create an organism, and that's an example for that. Then we have templates. So templates are a collection of organisms and molecules put together. So we have the header state combining these elements. Then we might have a slider with images and text and all the stuff. And then we might have some cards. For example, assume it's a travel portal. You might have a card where it gives the image, the price, book now button, all that stuff. So that card can be mentioned as organism. So all this putting together, we can kind of create a template, right? And pages is actually putting these templates, giving life to these templates. So when we do wireframes, we kind of put these components together and we kind of build a template. But when it comes to pages, we actually put real content and data and we see how these pages look alike. So that's basically what pages means. So next, I would like to kind of touch base upon, like I explained in my previous slide, functional design systems or component libraries out there. So basically at 910X, we have Storybook in a few projects currently using, and we are also implementing. So Storybook is a comprehensive component or design that you can use. So let me kind of show you a small example of a few design systems out there. So starting it, I would like to show you all the material design system that we spoke earlier. So as you can see, the material design system actually has few elements. So it's actually the layout, the colors, navigations, typography, then how the sounds. We all know how the sounds like, for example, the Netflix, then we have the Windows, they have their own unique sound experiences, iconography, shape. So this is material design system. It's open source as well. Then we have the activation system. So we have the components, the patterns to, because these are not built within a single day or a week. Hats off to these teams out there who has kind of brought these design systems to the state that they are right now. They have put a lot of huge efforts to kind of bring all this together. Then we have the design system, so managed by IBM. So have a look at it when you all have free time. You all get a clear understanding what a design system is and what it's made out of. As I explained, the core elements of it. Then this is basically the Storybook component library that I just spoke about. It's open source. So this is something that you all can include in your upcoming projects within the organization. If you all are building maybe web applications to mobile applications, it's recommended to kind of have your own component library or a design system created, because you never know, products evolve with modules and it interconnects with different interconnects with different modules, it grows. The product specs grows. So yeah, and then we have zero height. This is something, it's a commercial library, but you can actually have a look at this as well. So next up, I would like to touch base upon the most important slide that we wanted to talk about. So this is the importance and values of having a design system for your digital product. So I basically explained about how a design system is created, what are the core elements, components that's brought together, then how a non-functional design system is first built with the help of the design team, and putting together the interactions to wireframes, to the UI pattern library, documentation, how the interaction should work, all that stuff. So from there, we basically build a functional design system. That's where the UI engineers, front-end engineers, developers get together while establishing your product. While you're starting to develop the product, we actually build a functional design system. So with the help of building a functional design system and maintaining a non-functional and a functional design system, we see a lot of importance and values. So what are they? Let me kind of walk you all through a few. So first up, shared values through team collaboration, right? So when I say shared values through team collaboration, when you have a design system created for your digital product, it's easy to maintain and also to get your design team collectively to one understanding and to kind of emphasize on what is really the core value or the goal of the product, and by digital product, the design system actually. Because when you have a design system, you can get your design team to kind of work together, work as a team, and see the vision of why we have a design system. If not, what happens is designers will be working isolatedly and they will be working on their own as they want. But by having a design system, you can bring together and you can share that value with a collaborative effort. Next up, we have achieving UI UX consistency. So this is very important because most of the applications out there we see, I believe they might not have a design system. Hence, the application interactions vary from screen to screen. For example, a sign up form in one screen, when you go into another form, that form experience is different. But if you have a design system, you actually know how the form elements, then the interactions, where should the buttons be aligned to, how should the error state show. All these can be achieved through a design system. So that's where the UX UI consistency lies. Then scale faster. So scale faster means by having a design system, you can actually, you don't have to spend time to build components all over again. You have a design system, you get a new module onboarded. For example, if it's a healthcare product, you have a new module coming in, you have your design system to basically build and have the output ready. Then reduce development cost. This is also something important from an organization perspective. If you have a design system, but initially there will be a time and effort that you need to put into building a design system that you need to understand. It's not possible to do it overnight. This is something, a collective effort. But once you build a design system, it's actually, you're saving a lot of development efforts out there. And then you can just focus on building your product. Effort and time spent. So this is also back again. You don't have to build components all over again. If you build a component, you can park that in your design system. So you design it in a non-functional design system. For example, a card. Like I said, for example, travel agency, you have a card to display the travel deals. And you build this with the functional design system, how this card should interact, how the button should be enabled, disabled, how the pricing should look alike, with a discount, how it should look alike, all that is there. So in the future state, if there's another sub-product or a sub-module coming in, you don't have to actually build it. You can take it out from the design system, right? Encourage reuse instead of rework. So that's what I'm saying. When you know what you have in the design system, and when you're coming up with new experiences for the problems that you're trying to solve, for new modules, so then basically you can reuse elements from your design system and save time and effort. Apart from these ones, these core importance and values that I mentioned, there are a few more values that I can mention. It can serve as a educational tool for and reference for junior level designers and content contributors. What does that mean? It's basically when you are onboarding members into your team, you actually can use the design system to kind of onboard them, explain them what are the standards, and this is the design system that we are using, and align them equally, respectively, to your product development state. And also for end users, when they're using your digital product day in and day out, something that we really miss out is the cognitive load. What is cognitive load? Cognitive load means, in simple terms, the time taken by a user to experience or to think and get something done within the application. For example, one of the examples that I said, say for example, a form, it has the sign-in form, username, password, and sign-in button. But along the application, you might have another form where you need to kind of submit a few details. In that, the button may be on the top, and then you have the form elements. But then again, the user might take a few moments to understand, okay, I filled this form, how do I submit this? Okay, then he or she realize, I need to submit it from the button that's on the top. But if you have a design system and you follow these UX guidelines and standards, it will be easy, and also you might know with a behavioral pattern uh, once you evaluate them, the cognitive load actually for the end users to make certain decisions will take less time, and the application will really look smooth and fast. In simple terms, if we reduce the cognitive load of the users, their usability increases drastically. So that's also something that will happen. Also, when you think of a business perspective, it helps the product. It will help the development team to build the product faster and go to market as expected. You might have tight deadline schedules, and you might have launch dates. So if you invest some time in a design system initially, you can achieve these targets and goals easily. So I hope with the limited time that I had, I gave you all a good, insightful introduction about what is a design system, the core elements, and the non-functional and the functional design systems, and also the importance and the values of having a design system for your application. So with no further ado, I would like to ask you all if you all have any questions that you all would like me to answer. You all can go ahead and drop your questions to the live feed chat box, and I'll be more than happy to answer some of the questions that you all have. So up until we have any questions from our audience, so a little bit more insight to a design system is that if you all do have products that doesn't have a design system out there, so most of the people actually understands design system means only the UI pattern library. That's where the designers create. So in XD, Sketch, or Figma, it's not only that. It's about everything that I told, from the spacing, margins to the user experience interactions, the behavioral patterns, where the icons should look, how the icons should look like, where the buttons should be placed, and what sort of interaction should the pop-ups, sliders should be there. Should we have 2 to 3 different types of pop-ups, only one standard pop-up? So all these comes into play, and also also it will be helpful for your product. And if you're having a product right now, just have a look at how to build a design system, and kind of, it's not too late to actually have a design system, because if you feel, if your organization, if your product is enterprise grade application, uh, it's important to have a design system, because you never know, the products evolve rapidly with the problems that we have to solve and with the stuff that we have to cater for the end users. So when you have more modules, features coming in, to reduce development efforts, to reduce, building components again from scratch, it's recommended that you all invest time and money and effort to build design systems for applications. If it's a small application, it's really not a big deal. But if it's enterprise grade application, a web application, or a mobile application, it's really important that you'll have a design system unique for that application. But most of the companies, they also have their own design system defined, just like how Google has it. So they use that one design system for all the applications that they create. So that's like the base design system that they use for the applications they build. Okay, I think we have one inquiry. It's not a question. I think it's Akila Nilakshi. Please do a demo how to create a design system from scratch. Yes, I think in a future webinar, probably we can accommodate this. So we will see how we can facilitate this request, and we will keep you all informed. So don't forget to subscribe our 99X YouTube channel to stay ahead and be alerted about our upcoming webinars. So we'll try to accommodate this request in a future webinar session through 99X. Okay, we have one question over. I think it's Vanodya Oshadi asking, how do we design components for edge cases? What are the best practices when designing for such scenarios? Uh, what do you mean by edge cases, Oshadi? Can you elaborate a little bit on what specifically are you, what kind of scenario you're talking about, if you don't mind? Okay, I think Oshidi has responded. For longer tests or places where UI could possibly break. Okay, so I think the best practice for this would be if you know the UI could possibly break. I think this is where we kind of get the help of our QA engineers, and we kind of have different best practices for you know having what do you call test cases, or like different applications to kind of test your uh, the product through automation procedure, to kind of see how the uh, process works. So it actually helps like that to kind of test your application and see where and where the product or the UI could possibly break. That's one of the practices that you all can follow. Okay, for longer text, okay, I understand. For longer text or places where UI could possibly break, right? So it actually, this needs to happen when you kind of do a design. So when you're designing a design system, like I told you, with the help of atomic design methodology. So for example, you build, right? And the card actually has, I'll take the same example. Say, for example, it's a travel agency and you have a card where it displays itineraries of tour packages. So normally you see in these websites, you have 4 nights, 3 days Singapore tour, likewise, likewise, likewise. So certain times, if the text goes beyond the intended element or space that we have given, we have something called we have we break the text apart, right? Or have you already seen certain websites? You know, once the space is limited, you have like the 3 dots to kind of say that this content has more into it. So maybe once you hover over that text, you see a tooltip to kind of see the lengthier text of it. Or else, like I said, you don't have to limit yourself to one component. If you know you have to handle, 2 different types of scenarios based on your requirement that you cannot resist, you can have 2 card styles, and you can decide based on your requirement what card style that we should use for this component, or what card style you should use for this component. The end goal is to keep your product consistent. I think that's what matters. So the correct word for that is truncating the text. So you see, sometimes in websites you have the 3 dots and you truncate the text and you hide the text. So those are some of the best practices and some stuff that you all can do for such scenarios. Okay, I think it's time up to wrap up this webinar session. I hope with the limited time and the information I shared now, you all might have a better understanding about what's the design system, the core values of it. Do stay alerted and subscribe to our 99X YouTube channel, and stay ahead and be alerted about our future webinar sessions. Okay, thank you very much for joining. See you.